You know that feeling when you're finally starting to heal, and then something arrives that breaks you all over again? This is about a letter that should have stayed lost. About words that were written to save someone, but arrived too late to do anything except destroy the person left behind. If you've ever wished you could unlearn something, this story will show you why some doors should stay closed. I held the envelope for 20 minutes before I opened it. The paper was soft, worn at the edges like it had traveled through hands and postal systems and time itself, before finding its way to my doorstep. 3 years. She had been gone for 3 years. And here was her handwriting, as familiar as my own heartbeat, staring up at me from a coffee-stained envelope with a postmark I could barely read. I should have burned it right there. I should have walked to the fireplace, struck a match, and let her rest the way I had finally started to let myself rest. But I didn't. I never could leave her words unread, even when I knew they would hurt me. The letter was dated 4 days before she died. 4 days. I remember those days. I remember the hospital smell and the machines and the way she looked at me like she was trying to memorize my face. I remember holding her hand and feeling how light it had become. Like she was already halfway gone and her body was just catching up. She told me she loved me. She told me I made her happy. She smiled that tired smile and closed her eyes. And I thought that was our ending. Sad, but clean. The kind of ending you can eventually make peace with. I was wrong. The letter started with my name. Just my name. Written in that careful way she used to write when something mattered. She always pressed harder with the pen when her words carried weight. And I could see the indentation on the back of the paper, the ghost of her hand moving across the page. She wrote that she needed to tell me the truth, that she had carried it too long, and it was eating her from the inside. And even though she knew it would hurt me, she could not die with this secret still buried between her ribs. She never loved me the way I loved her. That is what the letter said. Not in those exact words, because she was kinder than that. Even in confession. She explained it carefully, the way you might explain a terminal diagnosis to someone who still thinks they have time. She said she tried. God, she tried so hard to feel what I felt, to return the weight of my love with something equal. But it was never there. She cared for me deeply, she said. She valued me, needed me, felt safe with me. But love, the kind of love I gave her every single day for 6 years, that was something her heart could not manufacture no matter how desperately she wanted to. There was someone else. Not physically, she wrote. She never betrayed me that way. But emotionally, in the hidden corners of her heart where I was never allowed to go, there was someone she thought about when she was alone. Someone from before me. Someone who left and never came back. But never really left her either. She said his name once in the letter, and I had to stop reading because my hands were shaking so badly the words blurred together. I knew that name. She had mentioned him exactly twice in 6 years, both times dismissively. Like he was a footnote in a story that no longer mattered. I never knew he was the whole book. She wrote that she almost told me 100 times. In the kitchen while we made dinner together. In bed when I held her and whispered that I would love her until the world ended. On the trip we took to the coast where I told her she was the only person I ever wanted to wake up next to. Every time the words climbed into her throat and died there because she knew what they would do to me. She knew I would leave, or worse, I would stay and break slowly under the weight of not being enough. So she kept the secret and played the part and hoped that maybe, with enough time, the performance would become real. It never did. If you are reading this, I want you to pause for a moment. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Have you ever loved someone who could not love you back the same way? Have you ever given everything you had, every piece of yourself, and felt it disappear into a void that never filled? Maybe you are in that place right now. Maybe you are pretending it is enough, that their version of love is close enough to what you need. If that is you, if you recognize this ache, leave a comment that just says I feel this too. That is all. You do not need to explain or justify or tell your story unless you want to. But when you write those words, someone else scrolling through these comments, someone who feels exactly what you feel, will see them and know they are not alone in this specific kind of heartbreak. And maybe that is what they need most today. To know that this pain has a name, and other people carry it too. She wrote that she stayed because leaving felt cruel. I was good to her. I was patient and present, and I never raised my voice or made her feel small. I loved her the way people write about in books, the kind of love that is supposed to be enough to build a whole life on. And she could not bring herself to destroy that, to tell me that despite all of it, her heart belonged to a ghost. So she stayed, through my proposal, through our wedding, through 5 years of marriage where I thought we were building something permanent. She stayed and smiled and played her role so well that I never suspected. Not once. Not even at the end, when she was dying and had nothing left to lose by telling the truth. Except she did tell the truth. She wrote it all down 4 days before her heart stopped, put it in an envelope and mailed it to the house we shared. but the letter got lost, stuck in some postal facility or misrouted or buried under other people's mail. It wandered through the system for 3 years while I learned how to be a widower, how to miss her, how to remember her as the love of my life. And then it arrived, on a Tuesday morning, in the mailbox next to the grocery store flyers and the electric bill. Like the universe decided I had healed just enough to be broken all over again. She wrote that she was sorry. She was so sorry. She said I deserved better than half a heart and borrowed time. She said if she could go back and do it differently, she would. She would have told me the truth at the beginning, before I invested years into a love that was never going to be returned in full. But she was scared and selfish, and by the time she realized how deeply unfair it was, we were already too far in, and she did not know how to get out without destroying me. So she made a choice. She decided that I would be happier not knowing, that I could love her fully and believe I was loved back the same way. And that would be enough to carry me through, even if it was a lie, even if the truth was that she spent our entire marriage wishing she could feel what I felt. The letter ended with a request. She asked me not to hate her. She said she knew this would change everything, that it would rewrite every memory and poison every moment we shared. But she hoped, she said, that somewhere underneath the anger and betrayal, I would understand that she tried her best with a heart that was already broken when I found her. She told me she did not expect forgiveness. She just wanted me to know that every smile, every laugh, every I love you, those were real in their own way. They were not the love I wanted, but they were all she had to give. And she gave them freely, even though she knew they would never be enough. If this story is hitting you somewhere deep, if you feel like these words were written about your life, I need you to know something. This channel exists for people like us, people who carry weight that no one else can see. People who loved too much or trusted too deeply or stayed too long in places that were slowly hollowing them out. If you have ever felt like your emotions are too big or too complicated or too dark to share, this is your space. Subscribe to this channel, not just to watch more videos, but because you deserve a place where you can return whenever the world feels too heavy. Where your pain is not dismissed or minimized or turned into a life lesson before you are ready. You are not alone in this, and you do not have to carry it by yourself anymore. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it back in the envelope and sat on the floor of my living room until the sun went down. I thought about all the moments I treasured, the inside jokes and the quiet mornings and the way she used to fall asleep with her head on my chest. I thought about how I built my entire sense of self around being the person she chose, the one she loved enough to marry, to spend her life with. And now I had to unmake all of that. I had to go back through 6 years of memories and relabel them. Not love, obligation, not joy, performance, not us against the world. Just me, alone, in a relationship with someone who was always half somewhere else. The worst part is not the betrayal. It is not even the lying, though that sits heavy in my chest like a stone. The worst part is that I cannot be angry at her. She is gone. She died thinking she was protecting me by keeping the secret, by letting me live in a world where our love was mutual and real and worth the pain of losing her. And maybe she was right. Maybe I was happier not knowing. Maybe the last 3 years, where I mourned her as my soulmate and carried her memory like something sacred, maybe those years were better than what I have now. This knowledge, this truth that I did not ask for and cannot give back. I think about burning the letter every day, just erasing it from existence, pretending it never arrived, going back to the version of history where she loved me, and our marriage was real, and her death was tragic but not complicated. But I cannot, because now I know, and you cannot unknow something just because it hurts. You cannot unread words that are already carved into your brain. So I live with it. I wake up every morning and I remember that the person I loved most in this world could not love me back. And I have to find a way to keep going anyway. People ask me sometimes if I am dating again, if I am ready to move on, and I do not know how to tell them that I do not know what moving on looks like anymore. Because I thought I was moving on. I thought I was healing from loss, from grief, from the simple tragedy of losing someone too soon. But this is different. This is not grief. This is something darker and more complicated. This is mourning a love that never existed. This is rewriting every memory to include the absence of her heart. This is learning that the best years of my life, the years I thought were building toward forever, were just her running out the clock on a love she could not feel and a truth she could not tell. I keep the letter in my desk drawer now. I do not read it anymore, but I cannot throw it away. It is the last piece of her. Even if it is the piece that hurts the most. Sometimes late at night I take it out and hold it. And I try to imagine what it cost her to write those words. To confess something so devastating when she was already dying. When she had nothing to gain and everything to lose. Part of me hates her for it. For telling me when I could not ask questions or demand explanations or try to understand. For leaving me with this truth and no way to process it except alone, in the ruins of a marriage I thought was solid. But part of me understands. Part of me knows that carrying a secret that big, especially at the end, must have felt like drowning. And maybe writing it down, putting it in the mail, releasing it into the world. Maybe that was the only way she could let go. Even if it meant I would be the one left holding it after she was gone. Even if it meant she was trading her peace for my pain. I do not have an answer. I do not have a lesson or a silver lining or a way to make this make sense. All I have is this letter, this truth, and the ghost of a love that was only ever half mine. Some nights I wish I had burned the envelope without opening it. Other nights I am grateful I know, even though the knowing is killing me slowly from the inside out. The truth is supposed to set you free, they say. But no one tells you what to do when the truth is the thing that traps you. Her last words in the letter were, "I hope you can forgive me someday." And I do not know if I can. I do not know if forgiveness is even the right word for what I feel. Because how do you forgive someone for loving you less than you loved them? How do you forgive someone for staying when they should have left? How do you forgive someone for making you believe in something that was never real? Maybe I will never know. Maybe I will carry this until I am the one writing final letters, leaving truths for people who are not ready to hold them. Maybe that is what love does when it goes wrong. It does not end clean. It does not fade quietly. It explodes 3 years late in a coffee-stained envelope, and it takes everything you thought you knew and burns it to ash. I still love her. That is the part that makes no sense. Even now, knowing what I know, I still love her. I still miss her. I still wish she was here. Even if here meant living the rest of my life in a marriage where I was more alone than I ever was by myself. Because at least then I had hope. At least then I believed that someone saw me, all of me, and chose me anyway. Now I know the truth. And the truth is I was never chosen. I was just the safest place to hide. Some things are not meant to survive the light.